Very nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you.
I wish to thank you for accepting me into your household.
I'm much appreciating that you agreed to come in and have a conversation. I'm Michelle, and Stephen is the body you are using to communicate.
He's the one who spoke to me previously.
Yes, last evening.
As I have found out recently that it has been interesting to know that a channel between the divine and the physical actually exists in this current point in time. It is a fascinating find, to say the least.
So you weren't aware of it?
No, I was not.
Oh. So may I ask to know your spiritual name?
Artorgus.
Artorgus. Can you spell it? Because I'll have to put it up on the screen.
Artorigus.
Artorgus.
Artorgus.
Wow, that's even a regal name sounding. That is great. So, to discuss how you were in the life of George Washington, where you were born in Virginia and you had roots in that state, and the cultural identity of we were pre-United States, more, royalist occupation and colonists, exactly. And so my question to you is, it seemed that you had some life roles in that life roles. I repeat myself. It seems to me that you had some major milestones that you achieved in your life, and I kind of want to talk about the skill sets that you had gained, because it was said that you were self-taught in everything that you became an expert in. So could you talk about the drive that you had to teach yourself, what you needed to know in your situation in that life?
You should be well aware that at the time there was not very many specialties available for teaching in the colonies, besides the bare basics. So anything additional that you wish to learn must be self-taught.
Is that why you had 800, 900 books in your library?
Yes, because otherwise, how else will you gain the knowledge if you can't speak to someone directly?
Well, the university, which I guess really probably didn't exist in Virginia, did it? It was more, Philadelphia University? I don't know, I have to redo my research, but so...
It was expensive. It was more for the aristocrats, if you will. The more wealthy, more put-off families. And even if you were to somehow accrue the money, there was always those social norms that you would not fit into.
And your family would not... didn't fit.
It would not fit into that social norm. So, being said, everything was self-taught.
So, is that the
reason? But there have been some times where I got little tidbits or even letters.
I would imagine. So, is that why you, as a young boy, were so aware of your stature in your culture, in the state you lived, in the colony you lived in, that you chose values to emulate, like your carriage, your thought process, your morality, those types of things?
I learned very early on that what you do will come back not only to hurt you, but also others if you are not careful. And that is why I try to be careful and calculated.
Do you feel like you were suppressing your natural nature? I mean, what was your natural nature? If someone were to observe you, unguarded, what would they have to say about you?
Early on, I did have an interest in many things, but in the later years, it was strictly what I had learned.
Well, how did you feel about, taking on a sense of responsibility when your father died when you were 11? I mean, was that a pretty impactful event?
Any boy who has to take over his father's reins is very most likely to be affected by it, regardless of their state of mind. So I would ask you, if you had to take over the family's legacy at the same age, do you think you would have turned out differently than you have been?
I'd say you'd have to probably have cultivated by that point a specific identity and had known who you are or who you needed to be at that point. At age 11, I know for sure I would have not been able to do that. So you're suggesting that your awareness of yourself and
your early years are very mild compared to your later years. So in that sense of respect, you do not know very much at that age. And having to be thrust upon that sort of carriage at that time of age is very, very grotesque, if you might say.
grotesque.
You are always fearful, you are always scared of not meeting the expectations of others. It is not a lifestyle I would enforce upon someone so young.
So from your perspective now, do you see the reason for it in the shaping the trajectory of how your life unfolded?
Yes.
Do you feel like it had contributed to your ability of leadership, taking responsibility, for someone who had taken farmers and gathered them together in a cohesive unit for the purpose of defeating an enemy, cultivating whatever skill set you found there in this group to achieve an end?
Yes, but I would also like to point out another thing. Yes, our master country, as Britain would have stated it at the time, was indeed our enemy, but hatred is not something you wish to have going into an actual firefight. It will not do you any good in battle to be blinded by your anger.
But would you concede the point that if you can disconnect your humanity a little bit to be able to get the job done and not block out the compassion, for what you are having to do to another human, being to make the dominant choice? I mean, how did you handle that?
I had read in a book that fighting to destroy is one thing, but fighting to defend is even greater. So I explained that if you were to fight for your country, to defend it, not just to kill the enemy, that then you would have the upper hand. Then you would have all the power and strength in the world to defend those you love, those you care about, and what you wish to see accomplished.
And the right to live that you see fit without interference.
Yes.
And was it easy to engage that passion with others to, do a combined mindset?
There are those who immediately wish to join the war because they did not like Britain,
right,
or any of the troops that they sent. But there was a lot more who volunteered once told to defend those they loved.
So once you made it personal, that the threat would have been against someone that you cared about, it changed.
Remember, I said you think before you act, because it will not only hurt you but others. So what I have done could easily have affected innocence. So that is why I explained the situation to everyone I could, because they needed to know that just because you were living in the colonies meant that you were fair game for you were to be placed upon their mercy.
Right.
And such things might not go out very well, especially if they are feeling frustration for what we are doing, and they can make you suffer. Even though you have never supplied a soldier or even talked to one, they will still see you in that group because you were a part of the colonies.
Right.
And it is that paranoia that everyone will experience, regardless on which side of the confrontation.